Hello and welcome to episode 167 of the Book Wars pod.
Wow.
I was going to say I
He can't
realized that
find
I
it. He
didn't have
can't
that
find
drop
it.
ready.
He did not have it ready.
There we go. Professionalism. In my defense, I usually don't bring us in anymore because I'm producing the magic of audio technology.
No, you've just been making us bring us in.
Yeah, that's
even though it's a
the
terrible
point.
idea every time.
I thought it was going to go a lot more smoothly, but here we are.
I don't know what in all your experience made you think that, Rana. You've been here long enough now, you know. Awesome. We have two very special guests joining us today that we are very happy to have with us. First up, we have from the Geeky Waffle, Candace at Candace is a Geek on Twitter. Candace, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And then also we have Ashton from Rogue Pod, Ash Jeffies on Twitter.
Hello.
Thank you both so much for joining us. We are very happy to have you. For our listeners, we are going to be talking today about Queen's Hope by E.K. Johnston, wrapping up our discussion of that book. I am going to not be talking very soon because I am producing and have a lot of trouble doing two things at once, like speaking and reading. But before we stop hearing my voice, what are we all drinking today? Miranda, let's start with you.
Hello, I am drinking a beer. This is, it was only $4.50 plus 10% off. A collab between Hetty Alice beers, I think they're Portland, yes, and Belmont Station, which is a really cool tap room and bottle shop in Portland. It's called the Belmont Lager. The Belmont Station, the tap room, their logo is like the tube thing, so it says Belmont Lager on it like that. It's a lager. I have a Pilsner lined up for later because I've finished half of this already, but it's very exciting. Is anybody else drinking anything?
I had a Jack and Coke before we started tonight. Now I'm drinking water to help offset that.
So responsible.
I'm drinking. Surprise, surprise. I have a new I've had this one before in the pod. New Belgium Reserve Honey Orange Triple. It's so good. I had one in my fridge, and all the other beers I had in my fridge were summer beers. So it's a Belgian style ale brewed with wild African honey and fresh ground Seville orange peel. It's 10%. So I promise I had dinner before this.
Oh my god, 10%? That's amazing.
She did. We watched her eat. It was fun.
You all watched. It sounds weird, but yeah, sorry, I didn't have great time management today. I don't remember where the hell. I think they brew this. Oh yeah, Fort Collins. That's what I thought. In Colorado. That's my story. Cool. Thank you. On to the next one.
Candace, how about you? Do you have a drink today?
I'm not drinking any alcohol, but I'm drinking LaCroix, which is the most Floridian thing ever. It's a sparkling lime water. I'm trying to get off of Diet Dr. Pepper. So that's my way.
Oh, I've got some seltzer in my car I need to bring in. Thank you for that reminder.
I'll join the seltzer party here. I am drinking because I really wanted to curry some favor with Rana, a grapefruit polar seltzer.
I do approve of polar. It's true.
Yeah. I also want Rana points. I have polar in my car.
I might have a problem with polar.
Grapefruit isn't the flavor I would have chosen.
No.
These are mostly here because we had friends visiting a couple weeks ago, and they didn't really believe us when we told them that they needed to stay hydrated or the altitude would hit them hard. And then
it's so dry.
It's very dry here. So we went hiking, and then they were like,
Oh
"Oh,
no.
we feel like shit," and so we stopped at Target on the way home and got Gatorade and Polar. That's my
Okay.
story.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you all for joining us. Just as a reminder to our listeners, for this book, the organization that we are encouraging folks to check out, and if you have the means to do so, to donate to, is Transformations KC, which is a trans people of color led organization focused on capacity building and leadership development among trans communities of color, particularly youth without traditional systems of support in Missouri, Kansas, and the Ozark Mountain region in northern Arkansas. And you can check them out at transformationskc.org for more information. And with that, let's dive in. I am not super prepared, so I don't know whose question this first one is. Miranda, I see your cursor in there. Is it yours?
They're all Kate's questions.
Of course. Oh, shout out to Kate, who unfortunately has a migraine because it's been raining all day here in Denver. So I will ask Kate's
It's been
questions.
tornadoing and hailing, to be fair.
That's true. Yeah, we have the lucky we got the lucky end of it, to be perfectly honest. So I'll ask Kate's questions. So thinking about Padme and everything we know about her throughout Star Wars and throughout the this Padme trilogy that Kate Johnston has written, uh, a lot of the interludes in this book particularly frame her as a mother and a leader among kind of the pantheon of Star Wars women and femmes. Um, what do y'all think about this framing? Do you, I mean, do you agree with it? Sounds like it's going to be a lot of yeses because she's Padme. But like, how do you think that the narrative of this book adds to that framing?
I'm happy to jump in first, and just because I don't have many coherent thoughts ever, so I'll be fast. I have mixed feelings on this framing, to be honest. Like, I think I would support it more if she had more of an opportunity to see herself in that role, or if she really got to, like, we see some of the things she does in Clone Wars, I think, are a little more sort of supporting this in that tiny little bit that we get to see of her. But I just kind of wish that she got to see more of her influence come to fruition. But the one thing that I want to name about this is I remember seeing years and years ago in that scene in Revenge of the Sith where the Senate decides to vote in all these powers to Palpatine, her hairpiece is the Rebel Alliance symbol. And I've always seen like people tweet that that's symbolism for her being like the birth of the movement with her concept there and her resistance, which I don't really think is fair to everyone else involved in the movement. But also, we know then that concept has been out in the fandom for a really long time. So that was a long-winded way to say, like, I'm cool with it, but I also would prefer if she had more agency in choosing to be a part of that.
Well, it's interesting. Like, for the record, I'm a man, so I don't have kind of a super deep connection to Padme. But it is interesting that her narrative is such, like, focused through, like, a male lens with her relationship with Anakin. And that's, like, not her fault. That's obviously a writing issue. So
George
I think
Lucas can't write women.
I think the fandom kind of taking that back and making Padme something that maybe wasn't on the page in the prequels, just because George Lucas can't write women, is cool to see.
Yeah.
Going back to Padme and the rebellion, there are deleted scenes for Revenge of the Sith that show her starting the rebellion with Bail and Mon Mothma and others. So I think a lot of us just see that as canon because we were disappointed by Revenge of the Sith that she was just like barefoot and pregnant most of it, and it was very like she was just reacting to things. And I understand pacing of Revenge of the Sith is also a movie for children, so you got to keep it somewhat short. But I feel like it did do a disservice to her. So I think a lot of us just added back those scenes. And we're like, okay, she's not just the mother of Luke and Leia, who are part of the rebellion. She actually helped start it with Bail and Mon Mothma, who are the two leaders.
Is
I
that
did not
emoji.
know about those scenes, and now I'm gonna immediately Google them. Because
Yeah, they're
I am
great.
really that like honestly totally shifts my perspective on this. It is really exciting.
First appearance
Yeah,
of
no.
Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So she had all her scenes deleted. And then years later, they're like, hey, we're doing Rogue One and we want Mon Mothma. And she finally gets to be like on screen as Mon Mothma. And now we have her in Andor. It's insane and amazing. And we did talk about this like in a panel that I hosted at Celebration. Is somebody brought up a good point. Like, does this framing of her being an inspiration to all these women, does that take away agency from the other women characters in Star Wars? We can say that we can see like we can kind of like map it out, be like, well, okay, if she didn't do this, then maybe Bail and Mon Mothma might not have done that, and then her daughter's Leia, and that's with the rebellion and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I understand like the not 100% with the framing of this book.
See, I didn't really, and of course, I famously cannot read and cannot comprehend what I do read. I didn't really like. I think we see Padme kind of being a leader and being somebody who folks look up to in this book. Um, I do feel like a lot of it was, in the context of her interactions with folks that like she already has that kind of relationship with. Like we see it with the handmaidens. At the beginning of the book when she goes on that like rescue mission basically for the current queen. Like obviously as a former queen, she's gonna, probably mentor these children who get that role afterwards. But I also first of all did not know that the hair thing was a thing. And am I gonna watch Revenge of the Sith later after this? Maybe. Um but like, and Candace, what you said, I think like I've always just I don't know if it's something I picked up on as a child watching these films or if anyone ever explicitly says that like she's one of the creators of the rebellion. Um there's like half a point there somewhere. It always felt very more like it makes me wish she didn't die for plot reasons because when I think of like, women leading the rebellion and creating the bellion, a real word. Uh, like I obviously think of Mon Mothma, who I think we do see kind of in more of a leadership role in terms of the rebellion here, because what we do see with Padme is her agreeing to like, yeah, sure, I'll go on this wild goose chase to some planet to see somebody who only wants to see a senator.
Yeah, Padme's just a really unfortunate.
Charming to the last.
Padme's just a real unfortunate case, I think. Like I think it's the potential of her character and the fact that she's the female character of the prequel trilogy, which a lot of us grew up with. But she could have been so much more had she not died. And I think that's kind of the sad thing. She's just kind of limited in the narrative to being Anakin's wife, the thing that turns him to the dark side, and Luke and Leia's mom.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Candace.
I just want to add, like, I feel like it's just Revenge of the Sith in general. It's not just her story, where like Yoda's like, I got beat. I'm going to Dagobah now. Like, just like peace, and Bale's there when the twins are born. Who's like, I'll take one. It's all very much like, let's get our characters to their starting positions for the OG trilogy. So it's not just that she's a woman. It's just that like Lucas is like, I got to make this work. I had a lot of ideas. And I feel like, especially with that first movie, Phantom Menace, I feel like that's her movie. Everything that happens is because of her. And you can argue like everything that happens throughout the trilogy is because of her, because like Attack of the Clones is because she was there was an attempt on her life, so Obi-Wan and Anakin go over there, and that's how Obi-Wan finds the clones. So it's all like happens because of her.
Padme is the most important in the galaxy, and also in my heart.
Yeah, I think just to respond to
Another happy landing.
to what Ash said, I want to name that like because I don't expect y'all to have time to listen to all of our like shitpost episodes. But we've talked a lot about that in our sort of exploration of this book, in the sense that Padme doesn't just have potential, she has these amazing things that she does. And I think part of the heartbreak of her character, especially in the written version of her character and not just what we see on screen, is seeing how much she does and the fact that she never gets to see all of it come to fruition. When you see her saying these things about how how there's time to have certain conversations later, how she'll figure out certain problems later, and that she only has like a very small amount of time left in her life. Um, it's really heartbreaking. And honestly, it makes me, I mean, I'm not going to cry about it, but it makes me really emotional when I'm reading this book. And we've talked before about all of the allegories around abusive relationships that E.K. Johnston has been very clear she was not able to put into this, that people are pretty familiar with. But it does hit pretty close to home, I think, to folks who have seen people in those sorts of relationships who do so much and then have so much taken from them. And it's really part of the heartbreak, I think, of her character that's not allowed to be explicitly explored in canon, yet that fans are also aware of. And the other thing I'll say is just that, in terms of what you were saying, Barb, about what was explicitly said in the prequel trilogies versus what wasn't, and what you were saying, Candace, about how this all ties into Padme, is I think for a lot of us who grew up, maybe not just who grew up, people who just in our original viewings of the prequels, I think a lot of us just sort of added context to her that wasn't there based on information, based on what we see of how strategic she is in Phantom Menace, based on the sort of more personal sides of her, and also like the ingenuity that we see in Attack of the Clones, right? It's not just about the really uncomfortable love story, it's about seeing her problem solve and do all sorts of badass shit. And I think for a lot of us, even if it wasn't explicitly stated, like, did I ever think of her as the mother of the rebellion? No. But did I think that the idea that she was adding all of these things and really one of the last people to stand up for this republic in the way that it was supposed to exist politically, do I think that ties into and forms a basis for the rebellion and for later on what we see in the Star Wars universe? That I think has been clear, at least in my mind, since the prequels first happened. Even as a kid, I remember being really drawn to her character and thinking like, oh, this is so cool, and then growing up and being like, oh, this is not so cool, and sort of doing like a full 360 moment of being like, oh, actually, if I can fill in the canon and I have the books and I have all this other information, it suddenly I think makes me really appreciate her character a little bit more.
Padme is a very capable character, person, space human. Once again, she falls victim to George Lucas doesn't know how to write women, so she does not get, a
He
lot
doesn't
of
know how to
extra
write
detail.
humans. Let's
Or
just be
anything,
real.
to be honest. Like, he can write action. And
I don't
that's
like you
about it.
either.
These are great points.
Like, he's the one who wrote the sand quote. Let's
Right.
be real.
Listen, the guy doesn't like sand, okay?
What's amazing about him is the fact that he can't write humans and has managed to create characters that have stuck with people for almost 50 years now. That's the amazing thing
Honestly,
about
I
him. I have
always
no
just-
idea how he does it.
I always just feel a
because-
little bad for Melody Hobson. Like, she's so cool. And I'm like, how do you live with someone who just has these sorts of views on like how to speak to women?
Well, we know with like even A New Hope, like Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher called him out on certain lines. Like you don't have to say this. And then he didn't direct the next two. So I feel like those directors knew how to connect to people better. And that's why we got like the amazing like chemistry. Well, we also got the chemistry between Harrison and Carrie for other reasons.
There were some reasons for that.
Which you can read about in her book.
I will never
So-
get over Carrie Fisher revealing that affair to the world and then dying like a couple weeks later. Like, peace out, I'm gone.
Hey,
I
she
love how
did her
she's
due
like,
diligence.
and Harrison Ford's like, yeah, go for it. I don't
Yeah,
care.
exactly. She
He's
told
like,
him.
actually, I want people to know.
Yeah.
It's like everything
Fair.
we thought, like when we watched it for the first time, even as kids, I'm like, they probably kissed in real life too. I'm like 9. I'm like,
Do you know how upset I was the first time I saw Blues Brothers as a little kid and was like, Carrie Fisher could not be making out with anyone else. This is wrong.
Oh man, I had half a thought and I super
Sorry.
forgot it. No, we all made great points, and when I say we, I mean
Only Candace and Ash, of course, our guests are the
Not
only
me.
ones with like competent thoughts.
The kind people we
Listen,
tricked into coming onto the podcast.
I have watched I rewatched every episode of Padmé and Clone Wars, watched all the movies, read all the books, did all the stuff. She's in my head, you know?
I love that.
all
She's
the
such a
detail.
good character. She's so competent. She's so good at everything through absolute like happenstance because George Lucas just can't do that. And she doesn't even get to live. And I don't know. I think this is just me talking about how much I love Padme because like I don't know. I was a little girl when the prequel trilogy came out. There were some other reasons that I would discover many years later about that, but it's like if we let's call Padme, Anakin, and Obi-Wan like the three kind of mainish characters of this trilogy. Two of them are competent. One of them is not.
I was always a very fierce.
He made it.
I was always a very fierce Obi-Dala shipper as a child. I was like, not now, not anymore.
Spicy.
I
I mean,
hit
Obi-Wan has done some dumb stuff.
My little 7-year-old brain was like, they should be together, not them.
Just friendly reminder that like Obi-Wan's the one who goes through like the window and Attack of the Clones, and then he lectures Anakin.
Yeah.
About his dumb stuff.
Yeah,
I wonder
honestly,
who trained whom?
Yeah.
And then we find out later that Obi-Wan also had like a great love of his life.
we also know that Obi-Wan can't be that smart just because he couldn't even come up with like a remotely unique name when he was in hiding. Like, come on.
He's like,
you kept your
Ben,
last
and he's
name
like-
and didn't even change your first name fully.
Yeah. And then like Luke Skywalker, he's like, it's fine. It's a
Yeah.
Right.
desert.
Luke Flowers is a much better name, but like no, don't ever find him. We put him on his dad's home planet, kept his name.
Luke's probably like a Naboo name too. And
Right.
it's just like
Yeah. The worst kept secret in the galaxy.
friggin' Boba Fett finds out the name and Vader's just like, what? Just reading that comic. And it's just like, you know what? If you gave him a different name,
Right.
Obi-Wan.
Like basic witness protection. Never mind having him grow up in the same house with his relatives. It's fine.
wow, it's just like roasting Obi-Wan time.
Maybe Obi-Wan
That's-
just wanted Luke to die. Maybe he was like, man, I'm really like resentful. I want this kid to go. Like he killed his dad killed the younglings. It's time for him. It's
I
fair.
mean-
Vengeance.
And I know there's the whole thing online, the one specific Tumblr post where it's like, actually Leia is Leia is Anakin's daughter, and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It exists, I promise. But like, Obi-Wan in the prequels is very much like, this kid is gonna be the death of me, which is true, but also like Luke is also gonna be the death of him. He's like, I'll watch this kid.
But
from
I was going into
afar."
Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Luke is a useless fucking twink.
He only like
Yeah, no,
graduates after he gets the Chanel boots in Return of the Jedi, you know? Like
But what you're
but he
saying
stops
is like,
being
yeah,
as much of a useless twink. Still has that quality.
But yeah, a lot of people say like Leia looks like Padme, but really she's like Anakin because she has a lot of rage in her. She has a lot of
Mhm.
anger. She never forgave her father, well, her birth father. But that's something that I really like about these books is like you see like Padme have like a friendship with both Bail and Bria, so it's like nice to
Mhm.
see like
Oh,
you know
It's so good.
they knew
Every time I
like,
read those scenes, sorry, go ahead.
oh yeah, no, it's just nice to know because like you're saying, like we're really sad that she didn't get to see her rebellion, she didn't get to see her kids grow up, but it's nice to know that like at least one of them is being raised by someone who knows her and also has the
Yeah.
same values as her.
Yeah. And I think it helps, like, I think the internet has gone over a million times that whole, how does Leia remember her mom? You can't just tell me because a baby had its eyes open that, like, it knows its
The
mom.
Force.
But the idea that
Does.
that's how it
Force.
goes. Don't
The
you
Force.
remember your
It's-
birth immediately? Like, she was sad and then
Actually,
she died.
it's implied in the sorry.
No, it's a really great theory that you know that scene before the like massacre, you see Anakin
Which
and Padme in
massacre?
Revenge of the Sith looking out to each
Yeah,
other,
that's a beautiful and the
and they're saying
music
that
in that
she's
scene.
at that
Oh,
point. She's at that point force sensitive because she's carrying 2 force sensitive babies, and maybe that's what Leia's remembering is, we see in Obi-Wan Kenobi she's really good at picking up emotions. So she says she's beautiful and sad, which maybe she picked up.
They have
I've never heard that. I like that.
retroactively said that Leia has like force vision powers. There's a comic, which name I can't remember. It has Poe Dameron's mother in it, where she touches in Naboo where Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn fought, and she gets a vision of Darth Maul. So it's implied she has like some weird force touch sensitive vision thing.
She also
Yeah.
uses the
Like
Force in
Quinlan
Leia,
Vos?
Princess of Alderaan.
Yeah. Quinlan Vos has that ability where he touches objects and he gets
Yeah.
memories, or he can see what happened there. So
I
wonder if they're
like
trying
all
to
of
say
that.
she
I
has
mean,
that.
Do all
I
Jedi
wasn't-
not have that?
No, I don't
No,
think
it's
so.
like
I just-
it's like
cool.
Quinlan and Cal Kestis from.
Cool. I just
the
Oh yeah,
Jedi
Cal
video
has
games.
it too.
And I wasn't trying to roast like just that concept, and actually this all information is really helpful. But more of what I was thinking was like I have much more of an understanding of how Leia could have a sense of what her mother was like if her mother had a little bit of a relationship with, in addition to the Force and being in utero and all these things. I like the idea of like maybe she got a sense of her mother's energy through the fact that her mother did actually have a little bit of a relationship with the people who ended up raising her and who were her effective parents. And in that sense, like that helps fill that in for me a little bit. And seeing these scenes in this book really made me have a little more of a sense of like how Padme must have been more present in kind of a heartbreaking way. Like everyone knows I don't give a fuck about Luke, but it is a little bit heartbreaking to know that like I know he's the protagonist, but I don't care.
No, I feel the exact same way, but I can never say it.
I hate a chosen one
loud.
narrative. I hate it. But I like the idea that Leia is able to access Padme a little more just through the relationship that she's built that we see in this book sort of really taking form. And actually we see it in Queen Shadow too a little bit with her
Yeah.
and Bale getting to know each other.
Oh, it just makes Bale like also more tragic. Like the Republic
Mhm.
ended and like his bestie died too, and he has
rough
his like
time.
her daughter. It's just I love Bale.
Yeah, I kind of get the sense even that like they were super close, and even that it's like almost like a not mentor mentee because she is sort of on the same level politically, but like that sort of sense of like found family of like he's a little bit older, he can kind of look out for her in the sun and a little bit. We see that again in Queen's. I keep confusing Queen's Peril and Queen Shadow.
Shadow,
But
I think, right?
yeah, it's Queen Shadow. I just am brain dead. But yeah, that's I like the
names are
idea
all
of like how
very super
heartbreaking it
similar.
must be. Yeah, exactly. But it must be a
It's
little
just-
bit like it just adds a layer to the heartbreak, I think.
Mhm.
So in that vein, one obviously parallel that we see throughout Star Wars and particularly recently in Andor is Mon Mothma very much takes over kind of this role of rebellion leader. And we see in a little bit in Queen's Shadow, less is Mon Mothma even in Queen's Hope? I don't think she's even mentioned.
She is.
She is?
She and Bale meet with Padme before she goes on the mission to the
Oh, that's
planet
right.
Yeah.
with the guy, and they do the thing
That's
Typho.
yeah.
when they end up like kind of ambushing a house, and
Ambushing a
Sabe has to fill in for her,
Yes,
and like
yes.
Bale and
Yeah, yeah.
Mom are the only ones who know.
So how does it? I'm trying to think about like how to frame this question, but like obviously Mon Mothma taking over that role of rebellion leader from Padme, whereas originally, they'd probably anticipated that they would be sharing that role at some point. Do you think that seeing them work together in the early days and in this book adds to that and changes like how you think about that at all?
It just makes
Yeah, in
me
the
sad.
Clone Wars, she seems a little bit. Oh, sorry.
No, it just makes me sad. Padme
Oh.
should live.
In the Clone Wars, Mon Mothma seems a little bit more timid,
Hmm.
a little bit quieter, and not quite as determined and of action as she is in Andor. So I do think maybe losing Padme motivated her more. And yeah, so
What planet is Mon Mothma from?
Chandrilla.
Trandilla.
Chandrilla. Okay, that was my guess, but then Laura Dern is also from Chandrilla, yeah?
A lot of
I
tall women.
believe
Gatalenta, I think.
Oh,
No, she's not from
Gatalenta, yeah.
Trandilla.
Yeah.
Trandilla's
Okay.
the one that they marry off at like 13.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank you for
Chandrilla.
coming to
We
my
find
TED
out that
Talk.
Chandrilla is a weird place in Andor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
maybe it was
Candace,
okay
I-
that the First Order took it out. No.
A show I have definitely watched.
I appreciate you adding that context around Clone Wars Mon Mothma because I have only seen Clone Wars once and it was a long time ago, and I know I need to rewatch it, and also it just doesn't quite hit the spot for me. And yet that doesn't mean like I know I need to do it. I've talked about this so many times on the pod, but I think because of recency bias, because I had just watched Andor before reading this, I was kind of picturing Andor Mon Mothma in this.
Yeah.
And so you adding that context is really helpful for me because it makes me I'm too lazy to go back and reread this whole book. But if I were to do that, I think I would kind of be seeing those scenes in a very different light. So I'm glad that you brought that perspective up.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to think about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think maybe she's that way in Clone Wars because all the Senate scenes usually are about either Padme and like Bale's there a little bit, but they
Yeah.
just didn't have like enough time. Like Padme only has like a handful of episodes even in Clone Wars where it's just her
Yeah.
focus and like the Senate. So yeah, I think they're just like, well, look, she's friends with Mon Mothma, but Mon Mothma's not going to be taking too much action at this point.
Yeah, totally.
I think it's interesting to think about how Padme's death may have affected her and been like, okay, now I have to like be the outspoken kind of like Padme was in the Senate. And maybe that, I don't know, maybe that emboldens her a little bit. I'm not sure, but
Well, something that we see recently in Bad Batch season 2 is Senator Chuchi is very much kind of taking not Padme's place, but kind of she's emboldened too because she was a bit timid too at the beginning of Clone Wars. And we even see her in the red and gold that is very similar to what Padme is wearing in Phantom Menace, like her iconic look. So I feel like, Padme's out there inspiring people in the galaxy.
Again, not to add another show that I have not watched all the way through. Don't look at me like that, Chris.
One of these days, you are gonna see Star Wars, and you're really gonna like it, Miranda. I'm confident.
I hear it's great. Is that the one with the little wizard boy? Like,
In a way, yes.
I mean, yes.
It's space magic, is what it is.
I mean, technically, Mandalorian even has a little wizard boy, Grogu.
Mhm.
So it's like
I have
every
seen The
single one of them.
Mandalorian all the way through.
Burb's not a fan of shows.
I love
Or of any
shows.
movie that's not Attack of the Clones, to be fair.
Listen,
I respect it. I
did
do.
not come out to be attacked like this. I wonder too, and like maybe I'm just like projecting here, but especially with, the dynamic that we see with Belle and Mon Mothma and Padme, like it's the three of them. They're kind of like, they have their faction in the Senate, but it's those three that are the center. And that has like with that, if you're one of those three, you've got a little more flexibility. But if one of them dies because she lost the will to live, then suddenly, like, shit, somebody has to step up. And, like, I wonder how much of, seeing Mon Mothma kind of step up is not because she's inspired to, but because she's, like, obviously she's inspired to. Padme is the best. Nobody's questioning this. But, like, she doesn't really have a choice if she wants the rebellion to live and move forward.
And honestly, Padme's death, I don't think that like the day-to-day people, like even her friends outside bail, thought like, okay, she just died because of childbirth or whatever. They're like, this is
Yeah.
very sus that she like died right when like all the Jedi are gone, this empire, I would be putting like conspiracy hat on in Star Wars if I like was there at
Yeah.
that time. So I think it's not just, being inspired by her, but like also being like, I want revenge a little
If
bit
I
too. Like we see
were
that with the handmaidens. They become the Amidalians in the comics.
Yeah.
And
if
are like,
I
yeah,
were
we're gonna
Sabe,
take out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sabe, famously not Padme's lover, which is a whole other issue. Like she like very sketchily finds out that her best friend slash deep love interest is married all of a sudden, and like, oh, her best friend casually told her that her husband murdered a whole village of people, and then this guy like disappears after all of the children at the Jedi Temple die, and then oh, Padme's dead too. That's fucking weird.
Also,
I
the Legion that was in charge of that Jedi massacre was the guy's, Legion. He's the general of. That's
His-
very
his
suspicious. The
personal thing, yeah.
501st? Who does the 501st belong
Doesn't-
to?
Doesn't I don't read the comics, so I'm not sure. But doesn't Sabe meet Vader at some point in the future?
Yep.
Does she?
He thinks
Yeah,
she's Padme
it
for
gets
half
weird.
a second. Good job, Anakin. Knowing what your wife looks like.
No trauma whatsoever.
Is that in the Marvel
it's
comics?
weird. It is very weird, but it's
Okay.
fun too. 'Cause it's-
Yeah, it's in the current run of the Darth Vader series by Greg Pak.
I also just kind of assumed that a lot of people died who we don't see in Revenge of the Sith. Like maybe not all senators, or maybe if you're wiping out all the Jedi and you're killing kids and burning cities and doing all these things, like the idea that you're also killing any um my brain is failing me. I was gonna say
Senators.
like dissenters, but I don't think that's a word. But yeah, like senators,
think-
politicians, anybody who is leading like dissent,
My
I would
thing with-
imagine also
that's-
was out.
That's
It's
definitely
only
happened
her
in Bad
that dies,
Batch.
though.
Yeah.
No, but like Bad Batch,
I'm-
it happens afterwards too.
Yeah.
Is, like,
And my
it's
assumption has
implied, at
always been that
least.
like even if people didn't know how Padme died, because I assume a lot of people didn't even know she's pregnant. I know she's visibly pregnant in her funeral procession, but like most people wouldn't even see that. So if her pregnancy was hidden from a lot of people, I would assume that like a lot of people probably were just like, oh, so many people died, and like, well, don't know what happened to all of them. Like, guess they're gone. I don't know. That was always the way I always read that whole situation. Was like, I just assumed most people thought her death was political.
I regret to inform you all that, off topic, but I regret to inform you all that when I looked up Darth Vader and Sabe, the first article that came out was Darth Vader and Sabe are a better pair than Anakin and Padme.
Oh, don't do that to
They're the
Sabe.
worst
I am not
pair
caught
in
up
the
on that comic,
goddamn
and I can
world.
guarantee you that's
I
not true.
fucking hate it.
Wow.
I mean,
Sabe
that they want to like
famously
murder
hates
each other. So at least
If I had to see that with my own
that.
eyes, so do
Maybe
you.
like on AO3 people might think that, but no
Don't ever
hate
look
to
that up.
AO3, but
Don't look that
It's
up.
it,
Don't look up that
clickbait's gonna
pairing.
clickbait.
yeah, good point.
But
Sabe famously fucking hates Anakin, and not in like
yeah, I
a
love that
enemies
scene
to
where
lovers
he's
kind of way.
he randomly comes. Well, he comes to the apartment because that's where his wife lives, and she's just like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And she's,
I
and
think,
she's
oh,
like, "Yeah,
man.
you can go sleep on the couch or floor. I'm not helping you with the pillows."
Yeah. Oh, that scene always makes me feel a little bit creeped out, to be honest.
Oh yeah, we talked about this on the last episode. I fucking hated that
Mhm.
scene. I thought it was gonna get a lot worse than it did.
Yeah.
But also, like, is that the one where Anakin is like, "I'd be mad too if she picked you over me"?
No, I
Okay.
think that was
Yeah.
later at the temple.
No, it was that scene.
Oh,
I
was
think.
that
In the
one?
bedroom, great.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Normal conversations to have with your wife's best friend, for sure. I'm
Kate,
gonna
I mean,
move us.
do you do that to Kate's friends, Chris? Sorry, go ahead.
Yes,
That's just bad
I
too.
always when they were visiting last week, I rubbed in all of their faces individually. You know, she picked me over you guys, just so you know.
I don't know. Kate and I are very compatible on CoStar.
It's
so
true. Burb has sent us the co-star screenshots. Co-star
Listen.
thinks it needs to happen.
Listen, there's plenty of women in the world that Kate would leave me for. You're gonna have to get in line, Burb.
I'm not at the front of the line. Women everywhere are
Do you
amazing.
think co-star would put Anakin and Sabe together?
No.
Oh yikes! I hope not.
That's for later. We have to save that.
Oh, we
That's-
do have an
That's
astrology
for the
question later.
That's
So
for the
funny.
shit posting.
I am gonna move us forward a little bit because we have one more point to talk about before we get to the shit posting. One thing that Kate brought up is that there's a little bit of genre bending going on in this book because it is a YA book because E.K. Johnston only writes YA, except none of the characters are actually YA. Anakin is 1920-ish, so he is like potentially technically a teenager depending on when his space birthday is. But like,
It's
what do
on
y'all?
the year 0.
Yes. What do y'all think
Space
makes
Jesus.
this a YA book, if anything?
Because it's a continuation of a YA series.
And it doesn't get
The
graphic, like
vocabulary,
not just
maybe?
sexually, but like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's an
refusal
easy
to
read.
dive deep into certain like dark ideas.
Yeah. And in Brotherhood, at least, she's like, Padme and Anakin are like going out on a date, and she's like, I bought a blanket, you know. It kind of thinks that's a little bit more implied, and that's an actual grown-up quote book.
It's so interesting to me that there isn't more sex in this book because like Star Wars YA, they let them get away with a lot in Star Wars YA. Like Leia 100% has sex in Princess of Alderaan. Like I'm pretty sure
As
like
she
People
should.
lost their goddamn
To be
minds.
clear, as she should.
Oh, absolutely. There's no judgment here.
Except
Like,
by Bria,
Pat-
who's like,
or-
oh, you should have got a smuggler first.
Lost
You should have got a
Stars
pirate
has
first."
sex in it too. That was the
Lost
first
Stars has
time I
sex in
think
it,
that they
yep.
had.
Yeah.
What's the Jin one? Rebel Rising has sex in it. I'm pretty sure Queen Shadow, Sabe, and Tanra have sex
Yeah,
as well.
I
Mhm.
missed
We
that
talked about that last time because Burb was like,
entirely.
heterosexual sex doesn't exist to Burb. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. Burb blacked out for that part.
Can you listen?
We have it like on our last recording. To be fair, I'm not just being homophobic. Like you
No,
said,
it is. This exact conversation happened on episode 166 of the Book Wars Pod.
I know E.K. Johnson doesn't like Anakin from like what she said on Twitter, so maybe she just doesn't want to like imagine that to write it, you know?
yeah.
I mean, to be fair,
Hey.
I also don't want to think about Anakin having sex. So
I can't imagine it's any good. That's all I'll say there.
I was gonna make off-color jokes that even for this pod
Yeah.
might be a little over the line. I'm gonna
Yeah.
refrain.
Wait.
Same.
Put them in the Book Wars chat pod.
Yeah.
Or signal is what I mean. I don't know, y'all. I haven't even had half this beer. Don't blame me. Don't blame that.
And speaking of Kate Johnston talking about how she doesn't like Anakin, one thing that she has also said back like when this book first came out is that she didn't really see herself writing this book when she first wrote Queen Shadow, like writing a book like this about them post-marriage or during marriage. Like,
They sure made her do it though.
Mm-hmm.
do you have
I-
have more on that, Burb? Or Candace?
Oh, I just love that she made the book as gay as she possibly could. And was like, oh, they're married also. They love each other. Anakin casually admits genocide.
I was hoping for more Anakin Padme. Like we see them like in Attack of the Clones even as a child. I was like, I don't get it. The two of them together. Especially like let's go get married after like a week together kind of thing. But Clone Wars really made me be like, okay, I get why she might think Anakin's hot. He's like confident and he's got a swagger. The animated Anakin, you know?
Yeah.
So I was hoping to see more of like why they were together because this is before Revenge of the
Yeah.
Sith. This is before who's that banker Clovis, the Clovis thing
Mhm.
where I'm like, I'm pretty sure they would not have gotten back together if she was not pregnant after that, you know. So
We've talked before in the pod about how they must just be Mormon. Like, there's no other way that
They're Christian
they're getting
influencers,
married
actually.
after, like, I get the adrenaline was pumping at Geonosis, but, like, come on.
Let's be real. It's not because of that, because we see like sex happens outside of
Right.
marriage. Like, I mean, Jason Sindula happened somehow.
I mean, they were essentially married at that point, though.
They were space married.
Which
They
is
were
probably
married.
the only way
Yeah.
they
Oh, no,
got
no, we
over
just meant
it.
Padme
Like, the
or
producers.
Anakin. Like,
or
one
Anakin,
of them's gotta be
so
Mormon.
it
Yeah.
might be like a Naboo thing or a tattoo. I don't know.
I don't
But
think it's a Naboo thing, man. I think Anakin's never met another person in his life on like a personal
Puberty
level.
is an interesting experience when you're the chosen one.
I think it's legit because it was the early 2000s and George Lucas was like, well, they're going to have babies.
Yeah.
So they have
There's
to
a lot
be
of
married.
Christianity, like, in Star Wars, obviously, but
Yeah.
like, I do totally agree. Of course, I think that's what it is. It's a movie for children, but also, like, as someone who grew up in an environment in which most people I knew who had kids were not married, even as a little kid, I was like, why? I don't understand.
I think because it's still like a touchy. So I was amazed that they did it with Jason Sindula when Hera and Kanan weren't married.
Yeah. For a kids
for
show.
a kids show,
especially.
a Disney
But
kids
of course,
show.
But of course, you don't see her pregnant even, and so you just hear like Sabine being like, "He's a lot like his father." Not saying it's Kanan, you know, even though he's very human looking. But with Luke and Leia, you see like Padme actually pregnant. So I feel like it's like the moral panic of the slightly early 2000s of like, because more people more at that time. That's when it started being like less marriage. I feel like
Yeah.
then. So
I
it's
think
just
that's
like,
true. And I think, like, whatever the religious version of, like, whatever Christianity to religion is that heterosexuality is to heteronormativity, like, it's that whole concept in the early 2000s was huge, where, like, as someone who did not come well, half my family is very religious, but like as someone who was not raised in a very religious way, I remember like seeing those values all the time in media and just being like, what the fuck? Like, this feels weird. Even now, like in politics, I get weirded out by it. And actually, fun fact, I've since learned that people who grew up in New England actually don't get exposed to as much religious talk. It's like a big thing in politics where political candidates have to be told to tone down religious talk in the Northeast, even though people are religious. Like, it's not as much of a part of like the regional culture. And so I do
big
think
in
you're
the
right that
South.
like, yeah, it's no,
Yeah,
seriously,
big
it's
in
a
the
thing.
South.
Like, they tell presidential candidates not to include. They can say like God bless America, but they're not like, they're explicitly told not to talk about religious things in the Northeast.
Yeah, I grew up fundamentalist Christian.
Yeah.
The sex thing in particular was like
Mhm.
the worst thing you could do next to being gay.
I don't feel like we had much media back then of people having kids and not for children. I mean, for like the under.
It was
10.
also the time where, like, even though Padme is not a single mom because she's dead, but it was also the sorry, but it was also the time where like single moms and unmarried moms were so politically persecuted at that time. Like, they weren't literally prosecuted, but they were persecuted. I've heard from a lot of people who were single moms, including my own mother, like, that the things people said publicly that were celebrated about single moms and unwed mothers in the early 2000s and late 90s were completely despicable. So I think if they didn't have a wedding, like, people would have probably in some way then projected those same values that were so brazenly celebrated. Onto
Just
Padme.
thinking
It's
about how
just fucking
George
taken in
Bush was
space.
president at
Yeah.
that time.
But that's something I wish the book like kind of explored more.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
saying, okay, this is why they wanted to get married, because that's like I don't think that Johnson should do the work for George Lucas, but I think this is an opportunity to fill in holes like that. So it makes more sense. But like when you're a kid though, like when Attack of the Clones, like first time I watch it, I'm like, yeah, they're in love. That's what you do when you're in love. Like you get married.
Feed each other
Yeah.
pairs through
I'm-
space.
Yeah, I'm used to
Sorry.
like Disney, like happily ever after, true love, get married, done. You know,
That's
kind
interesting
of thing.
because I saw it the opposite way as a kid, and I was always like uncomfortable. I was like, oh,
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess they're getting married now.
Yeah, like once I got a little bit older and I was like, that's weird. How long do they know each other? She's like the sand comet kind of thing. Like that's what made her go, yes, that please.
He massacred a whole fucking
Yeah, that
shit.
too.
And she
And
was
she's
there.
like, I'll marry you. Okay.
She didn't
With
say
you.
anything to anyone except Sabe, and she's like,
What'd you
"Yeah,
do with
oh yeah, that
Sabe?"
BT Dub, that was Anakin."
I generally
lo-
assume race is different in space, but that's the moment where I'm like, yeah, Padme is a white woman. Like,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
well, it didn't happen to my people, so it's fine. kind
right,
of thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's the only unfortunate thing, I think, with Mon Mothma kind of taking over Padme's kind of quote unquote role. It's like they both kind of exude this white woman energy. That is interesting to watch, to say the least.
It's girl power.
The Force is female.
Oh my god. I do respect the hell out of E.K. Johnston though, for instead
Yeah.
of like actually writing something that will show us, Anakin and Padme having a healthy and loving relationship, just having Sabe see, I can see why you're into him.
It's like it's huge, like you introducing your best friend to your like shitty partner who everybody else can see is beneath you energy.
We've all been there.
That was
We've all been
that was
there.
the royal you. That was not a dig at you, Burb, specifically.
It's like, damn,
I
you
do
haven't
like
met
she-
anybody I've dated. Fuck you.
I like that she explored like Padme being like sad about her wedding and being like, "Oh, I can't have any of my friends or family here." I'd be like, "Yeah, that's a big freaking deal.
Maybe
No one
it's a
can
red
know about
flag.
this." I wish they explored that more. Have you read the Revenge? I listened. I haven't checked out the whole all 176 episodes, but like, have you guys read the Revenge of the Sith novelization?
No, unfortunately.
I have, yeah.
Okay. It's interesting what he says about like why Padme's into Anakin, and it's just she likes that he's like breaking the rules for her, and she thinks that's hot.
It's so 90s sci-fi. It's like,
She's a
Yeah.
look
good.
at this
I mean-
bad boy of the galaxy.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean,
he's
I
like-
also did dumb things when I was 19.
yeah, but she's 25. Her brain's fully developed.
She
she's
doesn't have a
off her
thing that
parents'
prefrontal
insurance.
cortex is already
She
developed.
can, yeah, she can rent a car. She's good. You know, it's Anakin that you gotta like. He's the 19-year-old who's stupid.
He famously cannot rent a space car.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just because he keeps breaking them, probably.
He loves to crash those things.
That's the real reason he steals one in Attack of the Clones. He could have somebody else could have rented it, but he's just like,
Right.
shit.
He had
Too
to
young.
find one he liked.
Let's move firmly even more into the shit posting realm.
Our
This
fave.
one I can tell is yours, Burb, this first one. So let's dive in
Okay.
and talk about astrological signs for the handmaidens.
So I put this thought down while we were recording the episode last time. I think we were shitposting about Anakin being a Gemini because he's definitely an air sign.
That's why Chris likes him.
Yeah.
Listen, we all have faults.
So astrological signs for the handmaidens, Sashay and Yane, are a Capricorn Cancer power couple. She's in the fucking like Naboo Senate. Her wife is just down with like, let's adopt 10,000 children who almost died in this mudslide. They're deeply in love. It's gross. I love it so much.
Sabe has to be a fire sign.
Absolutely.
Like, she's ready to pop off, and I'm gonna claim her for all the fire signs.
I don't think she's an Aries though.
No, I don't.
Sorry,
think
Rana.
she's not a Sag. I'm not bothered. But she's not a Leo. I don't know what the fuck she is. She's not a
hard-
Sag. She's
and
not like
'cause
crazy
she's
enough to be a
not-
Sag.
She's not an Earth sign either.
So maybe
which
she is
is-
an Aries. Let's claim her.
I
Maybe
don't
she's a March Aries, so she's
I
like
like
a
her
little more
as a-
stable.
I like her as a Leo personally, but
But she's not self-absorbed enough to be Leo. Like, I love Leos, but they're crazy.
she's a fine.
And she's not airheaded enough to be a Sag. Sorry, sorry, Sag people. I don't really believe astrology, but it's really fun for talking shit. I gotta say.
I love astrology.
You know,
I
I
don't know
tried
if
to
religion.
apply
I'll do
this
this.
to I tried to think about what Padme must be, and I was like, she's got to be an Earth sign, but she's got to have a water moon if she's doing these stupid decisions for love. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's got to be like a Virgo or a Capricorn,
I don't think she's
but
a
with
Cap.
some water.
I'd put
Maybe
her
a
as like,
Pisces moon.
I think I'd put her as like a Taurus.
No way. No, she's not like I'm sorry. Like, I have so many Taurus friends. Everyone at my work is a Taurus. They all talk about Taurus energy all the time.
Oh, I
She's
hate
like,
that.
because she's willing to sacrifice her own comfort too often to be a Taurus. That's
Okay.
their whole thing. I love how I've just learned so much from memes that I can like pretend to understand this whole conversation.
You're doing great.
I know nothing about astrology, but my best friend is really into it, and they'll just tell me things, and I'll be like, "So true, Queen. I'm with you."
I really wish Kate were here because Kate like would be roasting every single handmaiden through astrology right now.
This is very true. I also know nothing about astrology except for
I
love
mostly know
Geminis
what
are a mess
Jess
because of me.
from I mostly know what I've learned from our Ho chat, to be fair, and from like my astrology obsessed friends and coworkers.
And memes.
Oh yeah, memes of course.
Lots of astrology memes.
Astrology memes are great only if they're good for roasting. They're not great if they're like deep and powerful. And I'm like, no, I don't want
They're
this.
great right up until they hurt my feelings. Then
See, I don't get my feelings hurt by memes. I'm like, it's a
every
meme.
single Capricorn meme like rips me to my very soul, and I
I'm a
love
Capricorn
all of them.
too. I think that's probably part of it.
So you understand.
Okay, you can't join the pod. I'm just kidding.
Too many Capricorns.
Okay, you know that we would get so much shit done.
Would we though?
I'm gonna
Yes.
refrain from the roasting I want to give because this is recorded.
Okay, don't. I have a fire moon, so it's fine.
Candace, can we ask your astrology? Or zodiac, that's what you're supposed to call it. You can tell I don't know what the fuck I'm talking
All I know is I was born in February, so Aquarius. I don't know anything about astrology.
Okay,
Love
that's
it.
fair. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
so.
learned it all from our group chats. So
All right,
course.
so Kate is not here to defend her argument, but is Anakin a Gemini?
Oh, that was
think-
mine.
Oh, that was yours. Excuse me.
That
Just
was
the fuck out of
mine.
me.
Chris is our resident Gemini. You have to answer that question. I assume yes, but
I
Yeah.
mean,
What sign
Listen.
is most of a mess?
it's. I
The
mean, it's
Gemini?
not Gemini. I feel like there's a lot of mess. Like,
Everyone's a mess. It's the famously. That's what being a person is.
my personal experience is that humanity is a mess.
we were all a mistake. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not super into astrology, but like, Anakin has always been one of my favorite characters. Like, since like seeing the prequels, like bad writing, bad acting, and all. Like, I feel like he is. I don't know. My thing with Anakin is that he's not into like other people's drama as much
He's
as I
not
feel
like
like
the
is the
other
Gemini
guys.
stereotype.
He's not like the other Jedi.
Chris,
He's like a cool
can I
guy.
wait, no. Let me remind you of the Satine and Obi-Wan arc in Clone Wars,
Right.
where
Okay,
he was
you know what?
living for that. He
That
was
you know what?
like,
That is
tell
such
me
a
more.
fucking excellent point.
And
Like-
you don't think that Vader is like? Remember that whole in another and from a certain point of view Ray Sloan chapter with Vader being like, "Oh, I heard people are talking shit about you. Tell me about it." Like
Anakin,
Also-
Anakin has always and will always be a messy bitch who lives for drama. Like that's
Right.
just.
Where do you
Anakin
think
is the
Luke got
most
it?
dramatic bitch?
He's the most dramatic. One, Rogue One, he turned off all his breathing equipment to make a dramatic entrance. Two, Rebels, season 2 finale, he came in a freaking TIE fighter.
I've seen
He had
that.
to like program that shit to be like, I'm gonna zoom in so we can see Ahsoka again and just be like, what? You know? Because it's just, yeah. So
Where do you
Gemini
think
energy,
Luke
if that's what
gets it?
Geminis are.
Okay, you've all convinced me. He's definitely a Gemini.
Can we have one day a special like whatever we call our special episodes to focus on this where we invite like Jess and a couple other folks onto
They're called bonus episodes.
bonus, thank you. to talk this shit for real and like go through all these Star Wars characters because it would be dope.
Yes, let's do it. Everybody start thinking right now what sign Yaddle is.
Sweet famous. Wait. What's that one that they added when they got when they added one in the 2000s that everyone was like, "What the fuck is this?" And then they stopped using it again.
What?
Oh, sorry, my dog is sleep barking. I swear this happened. I'm gonna look this up. It's like a little known zodiac.
What, like a Pluto situation?
Yeah.
Oh,
It
I was-
was Ophiuchus. I don't know how to say this shit. Ophiuchus and Cetus are the two signs added in the 1970s. Yeah. Haha, that's what Yaddle is. I have an answer because I know nothing.
Because she maybe exists.
Right, exactly.
I was looking for the part where Sebi and Padme are talking, and Padme is the one who's like, "Oh yeah, he is intense. He murdered a bunch of Tuscans." Like she's the one who volunteers that information.
That's the
tells
most
them
fun
Padme,
shit.
you just told her. She just found out you were married to this guy, and you're like, you before she's like, "Do you like him?" And then she's like, "By the way, he murdered a bunch of people."
Padme, you gotta keep that shit to yourself. Like
It's like- It's like if you went to a high school reunion and you were like, "Oh my god, girl, you were so smart. I'm so happy to see you." And you're like, "Wait, that's your husband?" And she's like, "Yeah, he's a cop." Like it's the same thing.
No, she's like, Padme's like, I tried to talk to him, but then we got a message from Obi-Wan. And then Sebe's like, and then you got married.
Right.
Which is like what we were all thinking.
It's just such a
She's like-
subconscious cry for help.
Padme says, when you say it like that, it sounds terrible.
Like, have you ever had like this specific, like a girlfriend kind of situation that's like, you know her boyfriend's a piece of shit, and you're just kind of hoping that they'll break up, and then she's like one day, "We're engaged," and you have
Oh
to
my god,
keep
I
all
wish I
that to
didn't know
yourself.
like 10 people like that.
I
Oh no, I don't
prefer-
keep it to myself. Then I just do the like, please don't invite me to the wedding. Thank you.
I prefer
I
that my
don't know if I
girlfriends
like
do not
this,
have
like-
boyfriends.
This part made me cringe. Like, about Padme. She's like, when you say it like that, it sounds terrible. By the time I couldn't imagine doing anything else, I still can't. And she says, it's just so thrilling. We never stop to
Genocide.
work anything out because we're always stealing moments alone or crashing into the next mission. And she says it sounds like a hollow novel.
Those are red flags.
Yeah,
I've,
Padme,
like,
please no.
Red space flags.
I don't feel like that's Padme, like what we see in like fandom. Like, I need more explanation. Be like, is this because she was like doing politics at age 5 or something? Like,
Even if she like talk, I mean, I'm not saying in any way it's justified, but like give the context of the like if she were justifying it to herself in some terrible way as like avenging his mom or like, oh, it happened because he was already there, like it's not acceptable. Obviously, I of all people, I'm not like, woo, let's go genocide, but like it's still
that's what
I
that's
just
what
don't.
it says in the Revenge of the Sith book. Is like,
Yeah, exactly.
she understands because she's like, I like that he was passionate about his mom dying or something. Like, I'm paraphrasing.
This
it
is
I
really
love that he has
shit.
badly.
no anger management skills whatsoever.
But during the Indian Wars, when these like white women would steal native babies literally from their parents' corpses, this is the shit they were saying. They're like, "Oh, but I love that my husband is so passionate about finding me more land." Like, it's fucked. It really, really bothers me.
It's not
It's
great.
cool. Sorry, Padme. I like Padme, but not right now. It's cool. Historical context.
I mean, and also
Yes.
like, and this isn't something we really got into, but like, one of my thoughts about this book is that it is clear from top to bottom how much Kate Johnston did not want to write this book.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I really love the first one, but this one I was not feeling as much.
She wants Padme to be gay so badly.
I think she just has no like. I think she wants to save Padme from Anakin's bullshit. I think she does want Padme to be gay, and also she's like, "Please, I don't know how to make this work. It's not cool. Please stop. It's a train wreck, and now I have to be a part of it."
Yeah. This one has big written for the paycheck vibes, which I respect. Listen, we all
Get that bag, like
got to do it.
Get that Lucasfilm money.
In it for the income, not the outcome. All right. Well, before we wrap up, Candace, I do have one kind of like question, statement thing. for you,
It's
I
more
know
of
that
a it's
you
more of a comment than a question.
more of a comment than a question. Yeah. You led a phenomenal panel at Star Wars Celebration London all about Padme. Do you have anything else from that panel that you want to talk about and how it intertwines with the portrayal of Padme that we've talked about today?
Just something that like a lot of the questions and the panelists we talked about is like we just want more Padme. Like we feel like there's still like even these books, like I feel like we scratched the surface still with her. And I want to know, like I want to understand why Anakin and Padme happened. So maybe like an actual romance book, even though yes, obviously a toxic relationship, but at some point something happened to make those twins, you know. But yeah, like it was just great. It was amazing to know that so many people still love Padme, and it was people had some great questions, and yeah.
Awesome. No, uh,
I
now
said
that you
most
said
of it during this discussion, like
no,
all my
that's
Padme
fair. That's
knowledge.
super fair.
Like
Honestly, you said romance novel, and I'm like, now I really want Zoraida Cordova to write an Anakin and Padme romance because
Oh.
for
That might be the only person I'd be cool with writing
yeah,
it, to be honest.
for those who don't know,
Yeah.
she is an actual romance author who writes under the pen name Zoe Castile, and she and she is a Raylo shipper, in the sense that she knows that it is messy and terrible, and that's why she loves it. And so I feel like she would write Anakin and Padme very well because she would be able to, like, hit those notes of, like, this is somewhat believable, and also I'm horrified. Like,
She also has written Star Wars before, and she once very generously and graciously joined us on the pod, which like really says something considering we are such a like
yeah, shout out
not
to
only a hot
Zoraida.
mess, we're like
I still can't fucking
a
believe
mess
that
that's gone
happened.
through an incinerator and is still trying to burn. Like it's
also,
bad.
can I just say I didn't trash this book, but I said like not my favorite. But EK Johnson was really great. She donated to we did a fundraiser for trans rights or human rights. This is a way after certain things happened with the Mandalorian. And she donated a lot of money to the Transgender Law Center is what we were fundraising for. And yeah, she came on our show to promote it and everything like that. So yeah. So
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
the
Go
first
EK
one, I
Johnson.
really
Yeah.
like the first book.
This is a very pro EK Johnson podcast.
I was on a
Yeah,
panel with her
100%.
a few years ago. She was great.
She is,
We
yeah,
made fun
she
of,
is wonderful.
We made fun of Corin Horn together. It was a great time.
All right. Well, I think that is a great place for us to wrap it up. And first and foremost, thank you so much to our two amazing guests for joining us. Candace from the Geeky Waffle, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And Ashton from Rogue Podron, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We hope that you all will join us next week when we start talking about The High Republic again. We're going to be reading The High Republic, The Rising Storm by Cavan Scott, which is the second adult book in Phase 1 of The High Republic. Reading the start of the book through Chapter 14. We're super excited. Meanwhile, if you have the means, first and foremost, don't give it to us. Donate if you are able to Transformations KC at transformationskc.org. Then, if you do that and still want to support us, you can donate to the Tashi Station Radio Patreon or give us coffee at ko-fi.com/bookwarspod. Both of those really help us cover our hosting and production costs. And a reminder for Patreon subscribers or potential subscribers, we have a new $2 a month tier where you can watch me and Kate stream various video games. I am playing Jedi Survivor right now. I am going to stream it again and actually not have my mic muted the entire fucking time because that's totally a thing that happened earlier this week. It was great. So much banter that nobody got to hear. But just imagine, it was great. Meanwhile, shout out to all the pets and guest pets of the pod this week. Obviously, we have Argos, Jasper, Orca, and Tony. But also, we have Wedge Arftilles, Tifa, Bucky J. Barks, the Winter Barker, and Maple, who is a dog that Kate and I are dog sitting, and we'll put a picture of on the Insta. So thanks to everybody for unknowingly supporting all of these pets' lifestyles as well. Our theme song is Whiz Bang by Poddington Bear. Our logo and artwork are by Joe Butera Design. And our audio and production are done by me. That's why it sucks. Thank you all so much for listening. Thanks to everybody for being on. From all of us here at Book Wars Pod, Kate, Kristen, Miranda, Rana, Ashton, and Candace, I'm Chris. We'll talk to you next week.